welcome back to the end of another week around the garden. It's a beautiful day. I figured I'd move around and give you some other angles. The pile of wood is still here, and they haven't done any more work on it, so I'm not sure what's happening there. But for me in the garden, the big news is that we have water, which is amazing. I am notoriously bad at watering my garden. I like to rely on the weather, which is not always reliable. So I am very excited that we actually have water, and it's somewhat automated, but not really. Basically, okay, let's back up. Way over there, we have the water that comes into the house. And there's some hose things, and that's pretty much all we have on this side of the property with regard to the water. So it's way on the corner of the house over there. So I got this big, like, industrial hose, water hose, and it's plugged in over there, and it runs up to the chicken coop, and then down here, and then up, and then into here. Francis drilled a nice little hole in this metal container. So I have my little spigot, and if I were to turn it on at the source, then this controls this spout here, and this controls this lower section, and then these actually pivot, which is kind of cool. Well, at least the side ones pivot, the middle one doesn't. There's one back here that doesn't. These fancy things, not so fancy things, they will tell me how many liters or how many gallons I've given to the garden. And then I have these short hoses. I have this short hose because I had to order more hose. But this short hose basically gets plugged in to each of the drip lines. So I did test it, and I'll throw in some video, like it does actually work. And this way I can kind of use my rain gauges to sort of say, like, we've gotten X amount of rain this week, and then I can supplement it with some drip irrigation. And I can actually, like, calculate, like, how many inches or centimeters I want to give the garden, and then convert that to liters and blah, 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 and be very scientific about it. But ultimately, hopefully the garden will actually get all the water it needs. And I'm leaving it somewhat manual here just because I don't want to turn it on and water everything. So setting it up this way, I will have one other hose. This hose is only long enough to reach these nearby beds, and that's basically the leftover hose from my first roll. And the new hose that I got, I'm going to make a longer one that will reach those beds over there. And my idea is that I'll probably only ever be watering like 2 beds at once, because ultimately this isn't like super high pressure. And I'm not convinced that if I wanted to try to water all of the beds at once, it would actually have enough water pressure to do that. It might. I don't know. I haven't tried. I just don't think it does. But we have water, and that's very exciting. Plus, there is the opportunity later on to potentially, like, actually extend this water line and maybe put another one over here. I haven't decided yet. But basically, and I might not, because this middle one is the one that I'm thinking about using for the further beds. And then this one, since it pivots, I'm actually thinking about using it to put some drip irrigation up into these raised beds. So my thinking is that maybe I'll get some more of these soaker hoses, basically lay out the soaker hose across these 2 beds, and then lay out another soaker hose across these 2 beds, and then have the source water come here, and then basically I'll have a little hose here plugged into this that I can plug into that bed, or plug into that bed, or potentially even plug into additional hoses that maybe I'll have in other areas of the garden. So that's very exciting for me. Other things that have been happening, I did get my boxes all set up, so that's looking fine. We have some makeshift chicken wire up in here because I did remove everything from the chicken coop. I was hoping to be further along, but I'm not. It's taking a long time. However, I took all the chicken wire off. I found these really cool, like, stainless steel cable ties. I've never seen these, but they're super cool, very, very durable. So I'm using those to mount the hardware cloth onto the poles. And then I'm basically creating a giant cage. So down here, you can see like where the panels overlap. I'm using these little hog rings. And then also down in here, I'm using the hog rings to secure this wire to the skirt wire down below the mulch. So when this sucker is done, it is going to be like Fort Knox for chickens. I got this cool little like crimping tool, which makes it really easy. Well, easier, way easier to go in and hog wire clip all of these attachments. And I'm doing them like basically like every inch and a half or so. So there's still a lot of work for this. I got a new roll of wire over there, and this one is 4 feet long. So I may actually end up taking this one off depending on how it attaches at the end over there, because that was the leftover of my smaller wire. And I started the 4-foot roll over here. So far I have like 2 panels that are almost done, like the beginnings are almost done, and then I was starting to work on a third before I realized that I was running out of sunlight. So that will continue this week. I put a little arch because that thing's just been like moving around the garden as we have to move it. I had originally built it because I was going to set up the wine barrels down there, but then Francis may or may not do the driveway, and there's some stuff happening down there, so it ended up not getting done. And then this has just been on the floor, and I'm finally like, okay, well, we have the PKs in, we don't have anything else, but I'm going to stick this in the ground. So this is where this is going to live for right now, and I'm thinking about putting like maybe berries or something on it. I haven't decided what's going to grow on it, but at least it's there. We will be ordering more mulch. We will also be ordering more compost because I got a bunch of trash cans. I got a bunch of trash cans. Anyone who has looked up how much planters cost, like big planters, they are ridiculously expensive. So I found these planters, and they're big. They're 80 liters, and they showed up, and they're super, like, I should measure them. They're super, super thick, very, very durable. They have these nice little ridges in this little like flat spot. So my idea for these is that I'm actually going to turn them into sub-irrigated planters. So basically, rather than drilling drainage holes on the very bottom, I'm going to be drilling drainage holes here, basically right between like this smooth part and the ridges. There's going to be a drainage hole. And so this bottom section will be able to reserve rainwater, and then this section here will all be for potatoes or whatever I'm planting in here. My thought is that these are going to be potatoes. So drainage holes along here, soil to grow potatoes, and then a little bit of space on the top for a mulch layer. And they're like they're super sturdy. So hopefully that works out, because I have 8 of them. And to be honest, I'm thinking about getting like 8 more and just basically having like a row of potatoes along here, or at least a row of these containers, and I can plant whatever I want in them. Because they were under €8 each, and then delivery wasn't that bad from a local place. So in my opinion, completely worth it. Especially since, like, I got these, the wine barrels, the whole wine barrels were actually kind of a steal as well. They were €50 each, and I got a bunch of them delivered from a guy, and I've been cutting them in half. So they also are quite large, but still more expensive than these. Obviously, they look a lot nicer, but anyway, cheap options for planters. I like frugal, so that works for me. Down in my experimental alley, I've been doing a lot of cleanup. So I trimmed the bush last week, but over here I've been removing my plastic and laying down cardboard and mulch so that this muddy mess is no longer muddy. And I had started weeding and kind of organizing all of my experiments. I like to propagate things. Like whenever I trim anything, it all goes in here and I stick it in the ground, and sometimes it grows and sometimes it doesn't. But it's interesting to see what things do. Over here, I actually started bringing out some of my seedlings. So in here, I went ahead and mulched it to give it a little bit more insulation, and those are my aubergines and some peppers, and there's rhubarb in the front there, and then these just have some seedlings. But I'm hoping up against this wall, and it being a greenhouse, that will suffice to keep those in a sunny spot, because the setup in the house is basically all full, and I have some tomatoes coming. And then in the orchard, I got out, and now we have white trees. So last week I had bought the Agricole Blanc stuff, which is basically like a lime wash. And you lime wash the trees, 1, to protect them from the sun, but then 2, to protect them from like potentially things that are going to burrow and eat into the bark. So that's happening. Plus I actually sprayed them all with dormant oil, which also helps prevent some bugs, because these guys haven't shown any signs of like bud break, like the buds, the leaves coming out. So they're still very dormant. The fig is kind of showing signs that it might be waking up. Like up in here, you can kind of see he's got little things going. But he got sprayed too. So at least they've been sorted. The apium over there still needs its whitewash. And what else? I think that may be it for this week. So things coming. I'm hoping to finish the irrigation project, or at least get to a point where it's like definitely ready to be used. So that is on the docket. My asparagus is almost ready. I'll get to that in a minute. Hoping to finish the chicken coop. Fingers crossed. We'll see what happens there. And those are really the big ones. I might actually start planting. We did have a frost last night, and I think that's probably going to be our last one. But over here, the yakon's like super sensitive. So last week I was saying how, it had green, and then we had a frost, and the green went all crispy. I'm not worried though, because I mean it's a rhizome, so, or there's a tuber down there, so it'll come back. I mean, it's already showing signs of coming back. But yeah, this got frost damage. But everything else is doing fine. The asparagus was fine. I mean, it wasn't super frosty. But you can see basically all of the dark brown spots are where I planted asparagus and it's started to emerge. So if I come down here, you can actually see like some are quite big. But I'm still waiting on one to pop up over there, and I'm waiting on one to pop up here. And I did dig into the dirt, and the root is down there and there are sprouts, so it's just taking its time. So I am expecting hopefully this week for that one and this other one to emerge from the surface. And then once they emerge from the surface, this whole area will get a layer of compost at the very least, if not compost and some mulch. Because obviously, like leaving the soil exposed isn't ideal, but I wanted to make sure that the asparagus was actually coming up before I went ahead and covered everything. So that will also happen next week. Yeah, I think that's it. We have some horseradish popping up, which is exciting because I love horseradish. So yeah, we have our little green things popping in. So hopefully these will do really, really well. I tried horseradish before and it all rotted. So I'm hoping those do better. And yeah, depending on whether or not we get compost, I may actually also work on those potato garbage cans. But yeah, I think that is it for this week. It's supposed to be nice, so I'm hoping to be out here a lot. And I hope you had a fantastic week, and I'll see you next week. Bye.